Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. How is everyone doing tonight? Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, thank you. LinkedIn, live audience, thank you very much for being here. Live virtual audience, in person, thank you very much once again. I'm Jackson. I'll be the host tonight. This is AI for Designers. I'm also the organizer of AI User Group. And AI User Group, we have really three audiences. We have AI for designers, we have AI for developers, and AI for marketers. We do events here every week, basically, every week. So there's AI for designers. I already said that. If you're interested in AI for developers, that's next week. So check that out. We're interested in learning about new AI-powered tools and how to apply them to our current workflows. So that's why we're here. What are the tools? How do we apply them? Are they important or not? Let's find out. Are they helpful? What else? We're organizing a conference. It's at the Hibernia. This is at 1 Jones Street. That's about 5 blocks away. This is in January. It's 4 floors. There's a main hall. It's an old bank, so in the basement there's workshop rooms where they used to store gold bullion bars. You know, there's no more. I checked, but there's going to be workshops there during our conference, and also main stage presentations, much like we have here, but on a grander scale, as you can see. This is a QR code to the conference website if you want more information about the conference. The dates are here as well. So we have 3 audiences for the meetups. The conference will also have 3 separate days. So mark it in your calendars now. Marketer Day is January 29th, Designer Day, January 30th, and Developer Day, January 31st. So that's what's happening. We have a discount on tickets right now as well. Talk to your boss. It's important for you to be at the conference, right? So maybe they can pay for it as well. Either way, it's not expensive. Check it out. Social media challenge. If you want to take a picture and say you were here tonight, take a picture of anything. It can be me, it can be one of the speakers, even better, anything. You can take the picture right now if you wanted to. All you have to do is take that picture and post it on LinkedIn. You have to mention AI User Group, right? Do the @mention, right? Do that. Do that before midnight. And then by lunch tomorrow, we're going to select the post with the most engagement, and you get a free ticket to the conference I was just talking about for over a minute, that conference. So free ticket to that. So check it out. Don't be shy. If you ever want to present here, reach out. This is my email, my actual email. So hit me up. We have AI tool creators, much like we're having tonight, but also I want to hear from the users. We have community presenters as well, which if you've been here before, you've seen this. So if you've ever would like to present on a new workflow or new tool, get in touch and we'll talk about it. And upcoming, these are all live on the meetup page, so you can register just as you did for the event tonight for these upcoming events. Developers next week, marketers in 2 weeks, and we'll do this again, designers, in 4 weeks, November 15th. What is it? Annual AI User Group Conference, January 29th. Could be. Okay, what else? Call for speakers specifically. If you have ideas other than this, that's fantastic. But these are some ideas I came up with. If anyone would like to present as a community member on any of the following topics, please get in touch. You don't need to be an expert, by the way. Part of the presentation could be like what you learned in the process of discovering the capabilities of these tools as a designer. So I threw up some ideas here. It could be one of these. It could be a combination of these. So I was thinking about Figma AI, Framer, Shutterstock AI, Dall-E 3, and also Firefly 2 is now out. So if you're interested in learning these tools or you already know them, get in touch with me and let's talk about a potential demo up here if you think that would be interesting. Okay, agenda for tonight. First, we're going to hear from Mary, then we're going to hear from Emmanuel, then we're going to do a panel discussion with Mary and Emmanuel. At 8 o'clock, we're going to do an open mic announcement for 5 minutes until 8:05. This is by request, so if you guys want to come up here and queue up, make your announcement here. It's a good way to introduce yourself to the LinkedIn audience and also a good way to kick off networking. This is by request. It's been very popular, so if you think of something, come on up at 8 o'clock and we'll do that before we have pizza at 8:05. Doors close at 8:50. 8:50. That's because the Spaces staff stays late to accommodate this event for us, so it's important that we show our appreciation and try to finish up networking on time. Okay, and without further delay, we'll get to the content. First, we'll hear from Mary He. She is a senior product designer at GitHub. The title of her talk is Gen AI Product Design for Impact and Experience. And without further delay, here is Mary He.
Is the mic on? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here to be able to share some of my experiences with you. For today's talk, as Jackson mentioned, I'll be talking a little bit about GitHub Copilot for designers. I'll be sharing more about my personal experience with programming, what that's been like, as well as some of my workflow experiences while working on GitHub Copilot, what that's been like as well. So I'm excited to be able to share that with you. So just a little bit about who I am. So I have about 8 years of, seems to have cut out. Some technical difficulties. Should I keep going?
She lost audio.
Okay. Yeah?
She lost audio.
Still good? I can just talk really loudly.
Okay, we're back.
The laptop logged out. Shoot.
Okay, but yours is live.
Mine is the laptop logged out. Can I ask him to come?
Yeah, sure. Who's here?
Kiro?
Kiaya?
Sorry, technical difficulties. So it did lock.
We'll get him over here.
Yeah, I don't know what
If you
happened.
guys want to continue.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Mary.
All right. So sorry for the technical difficulties here, but just a little bit about myself and my experience overall. I've been with GitHub for basically the past 2 years as a senior product designer. And in the past 8 years, I've essentially worked in the technology field, working with a lot of different industries in tech, specifically Modern Health, which is a mental health company. PagerDuty, as some of you may more know, which is a development company.
We had lost audio. I think you should restart this slide.
Restart the slide.
Yeah, you can restart the whole presentation, actually.
It's okay. Let's stop.
Let's restart.
Sorry, guys. It sounds like I have to redo the whole thing. You have to hear me.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Got to
Just
restart the
for
entire
the,
thing,
the
guys.
recording.
Sorry
I
about that.
think,
The entire. I have to restart my slides too, actually.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. Yeah. I'm excited to be here with you all and share a little bit more about my experience working on GitHub Copilot and also share a live demo at the end, learning a little bit about how Copilot actually works. I'm more of a junior when it comes to programming, so I'd be sharing more about my experience and how GitHub Copilot has helped me up-level my experience with programming. So without further ado, a little bit about who I am. So I have about 8 years of working experience in technology, and in the past 8 years, I've been blessed and lucky enough to work at these 4 particular companies across Canada as well as in the US. GitHub for a couple of years, Modern Health, a mental health company for a couple of years, PagerDuty as well for a couple of years, and finally a fintech company. So luckily I've had a range of different experiences from working at startups, smaller companies, and now at a larger company that I'm thankful to be able to share some of these experiences with you all today. So for today, what I'd be sharing is a little bit about what is Copilot and how it actually works. And I'll also be walking you through some of the experiences that I have designing for Copilot as a growth designer. And you'll be learning about some of the research that formulated the technical preview, which essentially is getting early access to Copilot and how that led to where Copilot is right now, and also some of the challenges that I personally faced as a designer as I've gone through the process of designing for Copilot. And lastly, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about Copilot and how it supported me in my journey to learning programming. So with a show of hands, I'm curious from the audience, who has tried using GitHub Copilot in the past? All right, that's pretty exciting. A good show of hands. Okay. All right. And I'm just going to be talking a little bit about what GitHub Copilot is. And since some of you already know, this might be repetitive, but hopefully it's informative. GitHub Copilot essentially is an AI pair programming tool that assists users by suggesting entire lines of code, effectively supporting users with a lot of things like code completion and even writing documentation, as well as writing tests and being able to explain the code for you directly so that you have a better understanding instead of going to something like Stack Overflow. It's all integrated together into a tool that makes it a lot easier for you to understand. And essentially, it's been trained on natural language text as well as source code available from publicly available code, such as GitHub, some public repositories, and it was built in collaboration with OpenAI, GitHub, and Microsoft. And a lot of this is just around like natural language processing. More specifically, it uses Open AI Codex, which is a machine learning model that basically uses a neural network and is capable of generating natural language text, kind of similar to ChatGPT. And it takes the knowledge from being trained on billions of lines of code from publicly available data, and it helps you to take that and understand the lines of code that you're generating directly in your file editor as you're learning programming. And most notably, it's really powerful on certain languages such as Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby. It is accessible for a wide range of different languages, but it's most powerful on very specific ones. So essentially it analyzes the context of what you're editing in your editor, as well as related files, and just offers very relevant suggestions. But big caveat, it's not perfect, which I'll mention a little bit later on in the presentation. But overall, just very briefly, you can download it as an extension using supported IDEs, and these are 5 examples of IDEs that you can use, so VS Code, JetBrains, NeoVim, as well as Azure. So overall, what I'm going to be chatting about, as I mentioned, is a little bit about my experience here with designing Copilot as a growth designer. And I just also want to be clear that, of course, other teams at GitHub were also involved in designing Copilot. Copilot is a huge initiative that involves a lot of different moving pieces, from PMM to product design to marketing to legal and many more. So it's not only just me, but I'd love to highlight only my experiences with design. And I'll share a little bit of a story of how I started. So around last year in April 2022, I first started working for GitHub. And around that time, GitHub was doing something of a technical preview, which is more like an early access program for, I think, 1.2 million developers who are interested in getting early access to Copilot for the first time. And honestly, at the time, we weren't sure as a company whether Copilot was going to be successful. We just wanted to have the experience for developers to try it out so that they have an opportunity to improve their efficiency and move faster and be able to code with hopefully a higher accuracy. And there was always a question, was it going to be successful? So we did the technical preview for 1 year, which officially ended in June last year, to fully understand how effective Copilot was going to be. And actually the results were great, and it ended up being a huge success, in my opinion, for how well it was received. And of course, I think when you hear about AI, you might have some questions around whether it's going to steal your jobs or something like that. You might have some doubts, and I think when we also launched it, I think there were questions around, is it going to be a success or is it going to be a flop? And so the technical preview really offered a lot of information. And this was some of the research that came out of the GitHub Copilot research team. And you can see from this particular chart that people were mentioning like there's perceived productivity, that developers are feeling like they're a lot more productive when they're actually using Copilot. They're less frustrated when coding and more fulfilled, and they have just higher efficiency and flow when working on it. Because essentially what we realize is that when developers are coding and they're doing programming, they're also bogged down by other things like writing tests or working on pieces of infrastructure, reviewing other people's code, and all these things take away from the actual work. But what they really care about is doing the creative work and being able to think more deeply about specific problems that they're interested in solving. What Copilot does really well is reduces all the boilerplate code and all the redundancies and the mundane things that they don't want to have to do over and over again, and makes people more productive. And this is what we found in the research here. I think in this research, 60% were developers and 30% were students, and the rest of the 10% were hobbyists. But you can see that a lot of people were very excited about Copilot. And the top 3 ways that users really leverage Copilot is everyday coding in familiar languages, writing the same repetitive code in the exact same languages. And also, a lot of students were interested in exploring new languages, frameworks, or APIs as a way to learn from Copilot. And here's a quote from an engineer who mentioned, with Copilot, I get to think less, and when I have to think, it's the fun stuff. It sets off a little spark that makes coding much more fun and more efficient. And I think ultimately, after the technical preview was finished, I think it kind of led us to this fork in the road where we're wondering, well, how do we create alignment across GitHub teams so that Copilot can be launched for everybody? Because it was a success for the technical preview, we now wanted it to be just widely available for all users. And here is what we actually discovered with that. We realized that to actually make GitHub Copilot accessible for all users, we had a ton of work to do. From the design standpoint, we had a marketing page, we had the IDE experience, we had the product design experience in the product. Then we had promotions that we wanted to do on GitHub. Then we also had GitHub emails, and we have GitHub marketing content, such as the pricing page. And all these different pieces need to actually be crafted together to create a narrative that's seamless, and you share exactly the same type of content. So for example, if a tagline is AI pair programmer, ideally you see that everywhere so that you don't see things independently, you don't see things differently each point. And that way you have the opportunity to create a more seamless narrative through the experience. So one of the gaps that I really encountered here was realizing that there's so many different pieces and touch points that my team was responsible for, and we needed to find a way to realign all these pieces so that they're all consistent and share one journey. So the question that we brought back to the team is, how might we create a consistent user journey that aligns relevant touch points for Copilot? And how do we make sure that all those touch points that you saw, the 6, are consistent? And the other challenge that I also encountered was that each of those touch points were owned by different teams. So there would be like 6 at least different teams that covered each of those elements. And imagine being a new designer joining the company and being responsible to create an end-to-end journey that is consistent across 6 different teams. I think a big challenge was, how do we create that consistency, and how do we actually create something that resonates deeply with teams? And so one of the things that I actually did was I built together a prototype that matches the vision of what I was trying to achieve so that I can share back with the team. And I'll share that prototype here. So it starts off, let me just see here. It starts off here where you're on the GitHub homepage. Then you click on Copilot, and then it takes you specifically into this marketing page. And now, as part of this marketing page, you're able to go in and start a free trial. And then, from the free trial, you're able to select between different plans, confirm your payment details, select between the telemetry, which is suggestions matching code, and moving through with the actual file extension. And then beyond this, there's also what the experience looks like in the file editor itself. And in the file editor, you can go through by signing up for GitHub and going through directly into signing in. And then there's a whole other flow as well that maps more deeply into exactly what Copilot does. And then it's more lengthy here. But the intention with this is that after I mapped out all the different flows and shared the experience with my team, we started realizing all the areas where the experience could be more seamless. We started realizing, certain copy or certain language or certain designs could actually be shortened or made to be more consistent. And so overall, creating this prototype was actually very helpful in aligning to a different vision for the company. And so jumping back here, as a growth designer, a lot of my responsibilities were actually building a vision, a narrative of a seamless experience, and crafting this end-to-end journey and sharing this with different folks in leadership to be able to build trust. Because as a new designer coming into a company, I didn't really have a lot of social clout, and there wasn't a lot of awareness around what I was trying to achieve. So it took a lot of relationship building to be able to get to a point where I had enough trust from the team to be able to share this vision, to be able to craft it out. And a lot of the relationship building is actually, booking one-on-ones with individuals, understanding who has the most influence, for instance, in a company and in a specific team that can actually have the most leverage in making decisions. And from understanding those individual pieces and maintaining a long-term vision of building those relationships with the stakeholders, ultimately I found that I was really successful in essentially sharing this vision, creating a narrative, and letting the different teams know about the areas that we need to actually make consistent. So this is part of the prototyping that I brought back to various teams that was very effective in ultimately creating a long-term vision and building the trust. So now I'm actually going to shift gears a little bit and move on to more of like the live demo piece here. But I'm actually curious from the audience here, who would consider themselves a beginner when it comes to programming? Okay, a good show of hands. I'll also actually raise my hand here because I actually also consider myself a beginner. I've taken a couple courses on HTML and CSS, but personally, I'm definitely no expert. And what I actually really found valuable about GitHub Copilot was how it actually taught me a little bit about code and how I can go through and analyze and actually understand pieces of the code because it can explain things and concepts to me in a way that was very helpful. So for instance, one of the strengths that I also want to highlight with Copilot is that it has this chat integration to be able to explain and answer questions here. I have a photo here, but let me just jump over directly to the editor, and I'll show you what it means. So right now you're looking at the editor, and I just have this file open called notifications.js. And this is a file that I just created to look at some of the imports and evaluate some GitHub code. Currently, I'm actually just trying to build out design components at GitHub, and I'm new with programming, so having something like this is really helpful. And what I usually do is I'll come in, and if there's something that I don't understand, so if I'm going through and I'm wondering, okay, well, what is this use effect? What I really love is that in VS Code, you can basically right-click and you can actually have Copilot explain this to you, or you can chat and ask questions to Copilot about exactly what this is. And like I mentioned, you can generate docs and tests, but let me just show you what that looks like if I ask Copilot a question about what this actually does. You can see right away that it outputs a pretty lengthy explanation, and it explains what the file does. It also explains what this particular use effect does, and it goes into a lot of detail. I will say it's not 100% accurate all the time, but it does help to save a lot of time because instead of going on Google or searching for it online, I can have all the context directly here. And it's really helpful if I'm like trying to understand specific concepts here. So this is something that I personally really love and find really helpful as well. I also played around with other features in the past, like generating docs and tests, and that's been also wonderful as well. So that's one thing I'm really particularly proud of in using GitHub Copilot. I think the other thing that is more of a downside is that it actually needs a lot of sufficient context to generate really helpful code. What I mean is like you sometimes might have to specify to Copilot, when I do this, I want you to change the color. Or when I do this, I want you to use this particular function. And that way you're prompting it and telling it exactly how it can help you. And I like to actually think of Copilot as a really good developer friend who's beside me, and they know just enough about what it is that I'm doing, but they don't know exactly how to help me. And the more I can tell them specifics about what I need, which is like, I want to make this button red, or I want to actually generate a return that outputs this particular function like this, then the more my friend can help me. And I see Copilot as a way to be able to facilitate learning, as well as a way to be able to just learn more about coding in general. So I think that's one area where it can be a little bit tedious to be able to have to write this, but it can be very helpful for Copilot to give you more sufficient code as well. And another tip here as well that I recently found, if you open multiple tabs side by side, for instance, and let's say you're doing an import of a particular library, and let's say you're importing like React library. If you open the tabs side by side, Copilot can actually read your files and be able to give you better suggestions and be able to actually use the files that are open in context to what it is that you're doing. So that's another way that you can actually leverage Copilot to make your results a lot more accurate. Another thing that I like to share is that sometimes Copilot really isn't accurate, and when it outputs a suggestion, it's doing its best guess. Just like a friend, sometimes they miss the mark a little bit, and I think that's totally okay. And one suggestion that I have is if you tap Option and the bracket, and you can actually do this in Copilot, and if you just right-click it, shows you how to do it. I'll show you right here. So for example, if you're just selecting this, and then I think you output it. Actually, maybe it's not showing up for some reason. But there is a way where it shows up here, and then it gives you the exact prompt so that you could toggle between different suggestions. And when you're toggling through different suggestions, it's helpful because if the first suggestion is wrong, you can always try the second one. And sometimes the second one is more accurate towards what it is that you're looking for. So that's another thing that I've realized is really helpful for my personal workflow. And ultimately, for me personally, I found that it can just speed up my workflow depending on the task that I'm interested in writing. So sometimes if I'm writing a little bit of like boilerplate code and I don't want to go on Stack Overflow, or I don't want to search up how to write this boilerplate code so that the syntax is absolutely perfect, I find that it's really helpful to just have Copilot do it and be able to say, write me some boilerplate code, and Copilot magically does it for you. And some of the research that we did in the past is we recruited about 95 developers, and we split them randomly into 2 groups. And we found that with the group that used Copilot, it actually saved them about an hour and a half to be able to actually, create their project and be able to write web server. Now, this kind of varies depending on the project that you're working on, but in general, we've done a lot of research here at GitHub to realize that it actually can save a lot of time and be very effective for your workflow. And that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else. Just a quick shameless plug. We also have a conference at GitHub, and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about some of the tooling that I shared around GitHub Copilot, I think we have a conference upcoming. It's free and virtual, so you can learn more about some of the tools that we have available. But I hope you found this helpful and informative, and thanks for listening.
Okay, let's start Q&A. Are there any questions? Great. I'm going to pass this mic, and if you can, just stand when you ask your question so the LinkedIn audience can see you. And when you're done, go ahead and pass the mic back to me, or even better, to the next person to keep the momentum. Thank you.
Yeah, so I write a lot of code with also using AI, not necessarily a Copilot, but mostly like GPT-4. And the experience I have is that it definitely does make me more productive, and the code arguably even tends to be better, but I understand it less. And what that often leads to is some maintenance problems. Like, for example, if the AI generates one function and that interacts with another, but it doesn't exactly know what the other function looks like, that can create some conflict. So I'm wondering whether you've done any studies or have looked into what the long-term consequences are of using AI-generated code, whether, if at all, it impacts maintainability of the code.
I think that's a great question. I think overall, out of all the research that we've done so far, there hasn't been a lot of long-term studies, unfortunately, just around the maintainability of the code. We're still actively coming out with new features, like we're we're going to be announcing a lot more, I can't say, but we're going to be announcing a lot more really exciting features upcoming around some of the things that I've shared. And as we roll out more features, I think we'll continuously roll out more research associated with that. So you'll hopefully be able to get your answered soon. Your question answered soon.
Hey, thank you for the amazing talk. It was really cool to see the thought that went behind Copilot. So I'm a designer, so my interest is actually in knowing about any stories that you have to share about your iterations as you were, you showed us the sort of chat interface alongside the code editor. Like, how did you go about designing that within Copilot? Like, did you work with developers to understand what the best form of it, what the best implementation might be?
Just a clarification question. You mean the file editor itself and what the design experience was like there?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I think that question is probably better suited towards a different designer that worked actively on this one. For me, I worked on more of the specific prompts that popped up when you were going through the experience to make sure that those prompts were actually seamless. But I didn't actually work on specifically the file editor piece that you were mentioning.
I see. Thank you so much. No.
Any other questions from the audience for Mary? Mary, what was the most interesting part of the design process for you?
During my time at GitHub?
Yes, on the Copilot project, what was the most interesting or most challenging or both?
That's a great question. I think the most interesting was just how many moving pieces there were and how many different parts there were around collaborating with different stakeholders. Each stakeholder had just a different opinion and alignment around what they were expecting. And it was interesting to dig into how to create alignment across the company because GitHub is overall, I think, 3,000 plus people. And a huge chunk of those people now are working on Copilot. And so one of the biggest challenges we have is how do we create consistency and alignment across what it is that we share with anything that we build. So I feel like overall we've done a really great job of creating more and more consistent experiences so that it feels like one person designed it as opposed to a lot of people designing different things. And that's one of our goals, to create the best developer experience possible for our users.
Excellent.
Just curious, like I assume it's taking code from public repositories and making all the suggestions and stuff. So how does it make sure that it's not like messing with proprietary code or private code and not messing with any of those sort of things?
Well, when it comes to the proprietary code, we actually don't touch the private code. So anything that's proprietary, for instance, that you use privately, we don't store that information. And even when you have things like your tabs open in your file editor, we're actually also not storing that information, even if Copilot is actively learning from the file editor. And all we're doing is just applying natural language processing as well as some metadata on top of that as well to generate all the information you need. But anything that's privatized, proprietary, we don't store. It's mostly just the public code and anything that's in a public GitHub repository that we actually leverage for security.
Okay, let's move to the next question.
Hey, thanks for the great talk. I'm Peter over here. I'm also a fellow product designer. Without making you divulge the roadmap at GitHub, where do you see the future of generative AI going specifically within IDEs and in this particular environment? And what excites you the most about it?
Oh, that's a great question. It's hard without divulging, especially since the universe is upcoming, and then we'll be sharing a lot about the upcoming roadmap just literally in a couple of weeks. What I can say is that we're investing more and more deeply into the future of AI, and it's definitely in our long-term company priorities that we're going to go further and further with investing into this technology, especially given all the research that we started to create and develop. You've started to see like most of the developers are starting to see value because it saves them time and it reduces boilerplate code. It creates higher quality code. And so we're probably just going to continue investing further and further into IDEs, into creating a more consistent experience with chats, and even going deeper and making the algorithm potentially more accurate. But that's my personal guess here. And I'm personally just excited about long-term increasing the productivity around developers' workflows. I think overall, I think it has a lot of potential. And for me personally as a designer, and you yourself as well, I think it has a lot of potential to teach us more about how to learn programming and how to actually get more involved, if that's something that you're interested in. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, hi. I would like to know more about how to maintain the context when we keep building. So it doesn't understand, like after you move on to the third or fourth level of building the programs, it doesn't understand the previous files, right? So how do we keep the context of what we are building?
There's a few ways to keep the context. I think one way is offering comments directly in the code and just saying exactly what it is you need. So for example, if you're importing a specific file and you want to leverage that file from like a specific website, and then you eventually want to go deeper with that, one suggestion that I have is making a series of comments as you're coding to be able to offer more contextual cues to be able to help Copilot along. Another thing, as I mentioned, is you can also open a separate tab that's related to your file that you think might be helpful for Copilot to gain additional context. And that way, can you use the files that are open directly in your editor to be able to get extra context? And then also, Copilot does really well with highlighting a specific section of the code like I showed, and then being able to actually hover your cursor around it. It's most accurate actually where your cursor is. There's a lot of technology around making sure that touch point specifically is most accurate. So if you highlight a specific section and you ask Copilot a question, then you're basically trying to maximize the potential for it to give you as accurate results as you can. And those are my personal tips. I hope that's helpful.
Mary, are there any Gen AI tools that you're using as a product designer in your day-to-day that you can share with us?
I have tried Notion, and I personally love using Notion, and I think trying it out, I think it was a pretty good experience. But I think there's a lot of AI tools out there. It's blowing up right now, so I think it's one of those things where I'm not super in the weeds with every single product, but Notion is.
Everyone seems to be using Notion for everything. And Notion, of course, existed before it had an AI feature, but yeah, even more powerful now. David Tibbetts from Notion is speaking at our conference as well, so we'll hear about that in January. Let's give Mary a round of applause for this excellent presentation. Okay, and next up, we have Emmanuel Maistre. He's the co-founder and CEO of Scenario. The title of his talk is Generate Images with a Consistent and Unifying Aesthetic with Custom-Trained AI Models. Without further delay, we will hear from Emmanuel Maistre.
Amazing.
Further delay, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, bam.
Here we go. 1, 2, great. Nice to meet you, everyone. Thank you, Jackson. Congrats, Mary. It's not easy to do live demo for Gen AI. I hope my demo will be as good as yours. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Scenario, scenario.com. What we develop is a platform specifically for game creators and game studios to create any kind of content that they need at scale using Gen AI. And we call it a Gen AI engine. I think I will discuss this later. I just have a few slides, and then we go into a live demo as well. Looks like we have a bit more time than planned, so feel free to prepare any questions you have. Just as a quick introduction, you might not be too familiar with gaming as an industry. 200 billion plus revenue. It's a big market. It's bigger than movies and music and TV all combined. And 40% of what they spend is in content. 2D, 3D graphics, audio, sound, music, voices, all the narrative, dialogues, quests, and so on. How they build the words, how they do marketing as well, which is very costly for them. All of this will be in the near to long-term future AI generated, either by the studio themselves, by the professionals, or by the players as they play. And that's we call this at runtime AI generation. It's like AI-powered user-generated content, and that's a revolution, really. But it comes with a lot of challenges, specifically around consistency, and that's the topic of the talk today. It is not just a vision. It is not just a wish. It's happening right now. And these are numbers from A16Z. Just a few months ago, 87% of studios do use GenAI today already, and 99% want to use it in the future. They use all kinds of tools. Of course, there are thousands out there. ChatGPT, 80%, 90%, probably more now. Midjourney, very, very popular. Stable Diffusion, of course. GitHub Copilot, 50%, hopefully more now. Other LLMs, and they do know about us because we are being used by 20% of the 250 studios that were surveyed. And these studios expressed a strong need. They want to train, let's say they want to fine-tune their own AI models. And there is a reason for this. I think that number will go to 99% in the near future. And before we go on, just quick question among these names. Who has tried Midjourney ever? Yeah, a good 80, 85, 90%. Who has tried Stable Diffusion, any kind of Stable Diffusion? A bit less. And who has tried Firefly? About 10 hands. Who has tried Dall-E 3? But a bit more, 15, 20 hands. Thank you very much. Midjourney is definitely the most popular of all. Big kudos to the team and David and the team. But we'll see Midjourney might not be the platform on which studios are going to scale. There are many, many challenges when it comes to GenAI. Of course, they will be solved. But today, the feedback from the market is it's too random. It's way too random. It goes for text. It goes for 2D as well. It is definitely hard to nail the consistency of images with just prompting. And if you tried Midjourney, you know that one word can change your output a lot very quickly. And how to navigate prompting is very, very, can be tricky. The user interface is all over the place, from very complex to very simple. Sometimes people don't really know which parameters are going to influence the output. People don't know about IP. Is it copyrightable? We can discuss that in the panel and later. Lots of other challenges. And it's not really yet integrated deeply into the existing workflows. That's the challenges. And we fix them. We fix them because we let studios train their own AI models so they can better nail the consistency. We guide them, and I will demo it through inference prompting. Which parameters matter the most? Where do they have to play to guide their exploration? How to edit fine details? How to create variants? We run on AWS, so it's the highest, it's the top, world most secure cloud in the world that allows for full data traceability, and they need it to also prove where the data comes from, and that impacts IP copyright. And everything we do is built on our API, which anybody can use. We do have a web app, that's going to be the demo, but any feature in the web app can be used in Unity, Unreal, in the games, and literally any interface, as long as you know how to integrate an API. And that's how we will go into runtime generation while keeping style consistency, because that's the cornerstone. Like, no product out there, whether they're a billion-dollar company or a small startup, no product out there will scale, at least for gaming, if it's not style consistent. Everybody knows about Angry Birds, right? Try getting red the way it is in the movie in Midjourney, Dall-E 3, SDXL. You'll get a bird, it's going to be red, it's going to be angry, for sure, it's not going to be that like character that you need. If you fine-tune with the right training data and with the right parameters, you'll get full reproducibility. Sorry. And that's what I called, and I just got the idea today, drum rolls, cross-dimensional style consistency. You can play with style consistency across dimension, whether it's your style, different objects, different poses, and so on. So what you see here is, of course, we start with 2D assets, even though we're gonna extend into videos and 3D and so on. But style consistency has to be proven at scale for 2D, whether it's a character, props, potion, whatever, weapons and so on, vehicles, buildings, environment, backgrounds, and so on. You have to impose a style and stick with it, whether it's cozy, whether it's a watercolor illustration, whether it's realistic, whether it's pixel art, and there are hundreds and thousands of styles. So there we go. Hopefully you're still with me now. Here is the scenario web app. Let me just go full screen. A very simple interface where you might see in the demo different concepts. These are generators, basically fine-tuned model. We call them generators for a reason. They do generate images and canvas. Let's first take a look at generators. So generators are custom-trained AI model built on top of either Stable Diffusion 1.5 or SDXL. Thank God we have open source software because we were able to really kickstart this project with little funding thanks to Stable Diffusion and stability. A generator is usually made of 10 to 20 images that are style consistent. And I'm going to show you how we can train one. So let's go new generator. Let's say I'm going to make an anime style portrait. Portrait generator. I'm going to pick some images. I've prepared them, of course. It's a set of 20 images here. It could be more, it could be less. It has to be consistent around something. Something could be a style, something could be an object, something could be a shape. But the AI has to recognize what is consistent across these images. I think there is a grid down there. Here you go. Yeah, that's the one. So I'm going to pick a few of them, 20, upload, accept. And that's about it. Once the images will be all online, I will just pick a few parameters, or I will go with the recommended settings, hit train, and wait usually 15 to 30 minutes. And the AI will have learned what I want the AI to learn, the something, the style, the shape, the object, and so on. Obviously, because we are in a demo here, I will not be able to, we won't wait for the 20 minutes for the generator, so I will switch to the pre-trained generator, and I will keep the same style even though we have dozens or hundreds to play with. And you're happy to, I'm happy to let you also share some ideas of prompt and topics that we might want to play with, even though the first run will be for me, just to make sure the demo works. Here we go, 20 images. Of course, you can, there are many tricks to improve some training data. Typically, you can have like different poses, different skin color, different zooms, and so on. So let's go next. Well, advanced parameters are about training steps, learning rate, training classes. You can affect a token. It's not too complicated. You need a few hours to learn about it. And you don't need, because we run on a cloud interface, you don't need to set up a collab. You don't need to buy your own GPU. You don't need your own gaming PC. You just pick, in this case, we have avatars of persons, and start training. Here we go. So anybody with just a Gmail account can train their own fine-tuned model in very, very little time. That generator the same generator is right here. And I've made a bunch of images. But before showing you the images, we'll go to the image generation interface. So I'm going to do create images. I'm going to pick my animate avatar designer. And I'm going to pick some prompts. And I've prepared a few around persons. You know, man, woman, old, young, teenage. So let's take the first one. I paste my prompt. For those who cannot read because they're too far, old man, white hair, with a beard, and glasses. Let's go. Usually it takes a few seconds. The first inference, the model is being transferred to the hot storage, so it takes a little bit more. But while we wait for the first generation to show up, as you can see, I selected Anime Avatar Designer, which was pre-trained. But what if we select another style, which I would have trained before, a JRPG style? Let's do one other inference. Let's pick another one. How about something very like minimalist? Another line. Another style. Let's do cel-shaded. Very popular for indie dev these days. And the last one. It's a generator we call pudgy props. It's a very pudgy-like style. Here we go. Look at the 4 images here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And for the exercise, I will display the training data that we had before. And this was the training data. Again, training data, generated data. And I did not have to describe that I wanted anime people in a portrait with a specific zoom and so on. So great reproducibility, very efficient, very productive. Artists love it. And all the debate about artists being replaced by AI, I think will die down quite soon when artists will realize AI is their best friend to work faster while keeping their own style and their own art and their own expertise and so on. So first row was the man with the beard and so on. Then, if you remember, we selected other generators. That's the JRPG adventure generator. We have a old man, glasses and everything, different style. A minimalist, here we go. Again, it was the same prompt. I did not have to write down that I wanted a minimalist vector style design, blah, blah, blah. Cel-shaded and pudgy. That's my favorite. It's very simple, but it's a great model for 2D to 3D conversion, by the way. That works quite well. So pretty cool, right? Why don't we do another prompt here? Somebody give me a number between 2 and 10. Anybody? Louder? I heard 7. I promise I heard 7. Toddler. Let's go. And let's do the anime again. So switch back to anime. Delete the prompt, copy the new prompt, toddler, pigtailed braids, rosy cheek, button nose, enter. And I'm gonna do another one. The teenage girl, or what about the young adults? So we have every age. Here we go. One thing, so while we wait, one thing we might struggle with when we speak about consistency is the pose. What we call it the composition of the image. Maybe we want like full face portrait, or maybe we want a bit on the side, or a silhouette. It's possible to impose that as well, while keeping the style. So we use something called composition control with a reference image. So I'm going to pick a reference image here. I'm going to select it from the library, actually. I've uploaded a few before the demo. These are some reference images. So let's say I want a very straight portrait, such as this one here. You see the girl? Well, I can ask the AI to learn some parameters from that reference image. And it could be just a pose. So a mode map is being generated right now. For those who are familiar, it's basically control net. And here, every image generated will stick to the pose that has been analyzed. Or it could be the depths. A depth map is going to be generated. Every image will stick to the depth map. And there is a way to play on the influence for that reference image. I will show you how. Well, before we go, that's the toddler. Very anime. And that's the young adult, dark skin, dreadlocks. What did we have here? Again, nose rings and sharp jawline. Oh, little small bug. It might have missed the nose ring, but we might add it manually later. So what if we go back to a girl now? Teenage girl, brunette. Let's make it very simple. We don't like too long prompts. We don't think prompt engineer is a thing, by the way. I think it's going to go away. Maybe it's a controversial topic here. I want that teenage girl, anime, and I want it with the same pose at the reference image. Here we go. And then I will combine depths and the pose. So we call it character. And I'm going to run it as well. And now the AI will take the prompt, the fine-tune, the reference image, and the mode that we selected, whether it's the pose or the depths. And we can go on and on. We can play on, guidance, which is the strength of the prompt. We can play on steps. We can play on the seed as well. So I love to take the analogy of a huge world that was created by Stability, maybe Dall-E, maybe others. It's the latent space. And the role for us and others is to provide the compass, the map, for people to explore the latent space in a very structured way. And that's really, I think, how AI will develop in the future. I think these big models that are magical today we might go into an over-personalization of AI. Here is my anime girl with the same pose. Look at the position of the eyes. So the hair is definitely changing, and she's a brunette. But we have different hair while keeping the same position for the eyes, nose, mouth, etc. Now, what if we selected character? That's the last line above. It's loading at the moment. As you can see, there is much more consistency across these 4 images. And the style, the anime style, with anime eyes, nose, mouth, etc., was kept. So this is how I want to demonstrate that it is possible to finally escape the randomness of these models. And listen, I love Firefly, I love Dall-E, over-impressed about ChatGPT with Dall-E inside, but if we do the same prompt, the old man with white hair, beard and glasses, and we add anime, that's what we get on Firefly. Perfect images, no question. Are they consistent with my style? No. Same thing for Bing, Dall-E 3. Anime, quite another type of anime, but not my style. I would love to demonstrate the canvas and stuff, but maybe we pause here. Maybe you guys have questions. What do you think, Jackson?
Would you like to take questions now, or would you like to continue the demo?
I maybe have one last feature.
Let's do that, and
Okay.
then let's get the questions ready, though.
Okay, all right.
Let's do it.
So I have been able to organize all my images on Scenario with collections and tags. I can search them. They're automatically captions. There is a way to manage that data at scale. And I've made a few images a few weeks ago. I called it Samurai Girl. It's that girl. She might be sometimes happy or she might be sad. And I like them quite a lot. But what if I really like the expression, but for some reason, as a game developer, I want to create variants by really editing some detail. Well, that's possible by going into Canvas, where I will go into the manual mode, and I will decide which detail has to be changed, and the AI will finish the job. So I guide the AI does the heavy lifting. What if we want to change the color of the hair? Make them blue. Select blue, play a little bit on brush size and opacity, as you can see here, and just sketch precisely where you want the detail to be changed. This is a typical example, but it could be adding sunglasses. It could be, changing the expression from happy to sad, or it could be changing the outfit. Like that's typical for gamers or game developers. And once this is done, I just make sure by masking, as I do it here, I just make sure that the AI will only change the parts that I selected. And then we're going to do blue hair, and that's a girl. And I'm going to play with influence. I want pretty high influence in that case. By playing on influence from 1 to 100, I basically guide the AI to stay as close as possible to the original image. That's more like 50 to 100 influence, or I will let the AI be more creative. That's more like 0 to 50. So it takes a bit to understand which are as a designer, as an artist, your favorite parameters. But once people get it, it is so much easier than trying to prompt things out, which might be difficult. So there we go, it's coming. We have 4 choices. I could have picked like 1, 2, or 16 generations as well. We have a way to play on the number of images. And let's see what the AI comes up with. On that one, I played with it and I changed the color of the eyes and I make it like all blue. So I created variants, it's like the blue bioman and the red bioman and the green bioman and so on. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's say I love this one, accept, there we go. So I should have painted or sketched the other one, the other hair, and it would have been perfect. Many other features to talk about. It's a pretty extensive platform. We are a team of 25 based in the US, San Francisco. I'm in SF. We're in France as well, Ukraine, Brazil. We've raised $6 million with VCs and angels, and we want to go far. Thank you very much.
Epic, loved it. Questions for Emmanuel? Okay, let's start with Julia, and then as a reminder, just stand up when you ask your question, and then let's pass the mic back when you're done.
Hello. I actually have 2 questions that are related. What are the output types, file types that you offer? And then second, how are gaming companies using scenario, which would depend on the file type, I imagine?
Great. I'll answer both. The file types, as you can see today, right now on Scenario, are 2D images, more specifically PNGs. The resolution ranges from 512 by 512 when you use Stable Diffusion 1.5 natively, but it can go to 1024 by 1024, and it can be upscaled to 2K, 4K, even above. What comes next will be vectorization of these images, especially when using the Canva tool, which I've used last, where every layer independently can be kept separately. The hair, glasses, if I had made glasses, and so on. Other format that will go next will be videos and 3D. And the topic of today is style consistency. We believe that it will all start with 2D images to nail down the style, and these 2D images will be used as the base for videos and 3D models. So I'm a big believer in 2D to 3D versus text to 3D, which might have some application, of course. And this is my own Sketchfab account, big fan of Sketchfab, early customer. These are 3D models that have been made with from scenario images. This is not yet on scenario. It's something we're working on. It is far from being production ready, but it's quite decent. I can even show you where that guy come from. It's coming from the Pudgy style generator. It might be somewhere here. It's one of these. There we go. All right. Not perfect, but coming. So get ready.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. This stuff excites me so much. One question I have, because I use Midjourney for a lot of character design, though I'm hoping that you can answer this a little bit, or at least have a perspective. One thing I've never seen any tool work really well on is hands and feet, generating those. Do you have any insight on that?
Yes. So TLDR, either it's being fixed or it has been fixed. If you look at the latest Firefly generations, it is fixed, but it's very realistic. And so remember 1.5 came out a year ago. We were all amazed about 1.5, and remember Midjourney 3 in June was amazing. Now they're at V5.2 or soon V6, 5.3, I don't know. It's going to be fixed, and it's being fixed right now. It's just a matter of improving the models. And just before we go on, I did not answer your second question. How are our studios using scenario today? I think I had a slide about it, yes. They are using it across the game development cycle. They are using it for concepting, ideation. By the way, they are using also Midjourney for concepting and ideation, and it's great. But they're also using it for prototyping, localizing, when you have to develop a game that will fit for, I don't know, Asia and Europe, but not the same style or building. That's possible today, to localize assets with AI. They are using it for in-game assets. They are using it for marketing as well. Some studios say, hey, we've sped up process by 10x just for ideation, and it's going to save us 200K a year. 20 people, 200K a year. Ubisoft is about to launch a game where every player, AI generates their own avatars and an object and so on, 5 million images. Sandbox is putting scenario in the hands of creators so they can imagine new worlds and new props and new characters and so on. Darewise does marketing, prepares marketing assets with scenario. It's quite broad. And we see other use cases like comic creators, graphic novels, webtoons, even though it's a minority of the users today.
Hi, so I'm wondering about the model of like a character and being able to have it in different poses, in that sort of consistency across characters. What are you guys, is that not part of what you need to do right now, or are you guys working on that?
Just to make sure I understand, the question is about, are we specialized on characters, or do we do
more? Like, it's like, here's Ari, this character, and I have her this way, and then I have her this way, and then I have her this way. So defining one of these as Ari.
Yeah, so in that case, what people would typically do as users, they will not train a style, as I've done. They will train a character. And they will train typically enough images of that character, probably 20, depending on full body or details and so on. And they will try to teach the AI to really reproduce that character and only that character. Let me tell you, it's the trickiest challenge of all right now, versus training a style, where when you train a style, you want to keep some creativity, right? When you train a character, you're talking about IP, Red, or Captain America, the Joker. Like, it has a very specific visual feature that the AI has to reproduce. With LoRa's, with SDXL, with ControlNet and so on, this is becoming a reality. This was not the case just a few months ago. The only reason why I'm a little bit cautious, it's expectations for AI are immense. They're huge because it's all on Twitter. People expect to have a beautiful output right away, but it's not real life. Like business is not Twitter, and you might have to sometimes work weeks on a model until you refine it enough so it outputs the right images and models. And because of Midjourney and ChatGPT, which are amazing, people expect to have it right here, right now, in less than 5 minutes. But that's not what B2B and enterprises will look for on the long term. Anyway, questions?
Hello, my name is Pierre. I wanted to know, you said that you don't want long prompts, but I thought long prompt like could give output more precision. Can you explain why it's not a good idea to write long prompts? Thank you.
It is not a great idea to write a long prompt because say you have a prompt with 20 words versus a prompt with 2 words or 3 words. If you give the AI 20 words, you don't know exactly which weight each word, each token is going to bring into the output. So consumers have been amazed about 20 to 50 token, 50 words prompt on Midjourney and others, making amazingly detailed images. That's fantastic. Are these prompts suitable to really guide and like generate style consistent controlled images? The answer is absolutely no. It is too hard to really say that token should have like a 5% influence, that other one 20% influence, and so on. Therefore, the recommended way is to train what you want the AI to always stick with, and then play on much shorter prompt, 5, 6, 7, 10 tokens that you exactly know how to control. And these tokens, by the way, might be, you might increase the weight of the token. You might say old man, or like, I don't know, glasses, plus, and maybe red glasses, plus. There we go. In that case, I tell the AI to give more importance to the token red glasses. But like if you do that on 20 words, you're going to be lost very quickly. So that's my long answer to your question.
Hi. Can you talk more about the tech that you will use to go from 2D to 3D? Because that's where I see like a big gap. Are you planning to use something proprietary or build something proprietary, or are you waiting for the landscape to develop?
So when you're 25 people with 6 million in funding, it doesn't make sense to fight OpenAI that has like billions in funding and that's made Dall-E 3. So it's better to leverage open source software. Oh, by the way, see, didn't get my red glasses. I'm going to try it again. So we are big advocates of open source. We've built the V1, that I call it the V1, based on Stable Diffusion 1.5, SDXL coming in a few days. For 2D to 3D, open source models are out there as well. What just came out a few weeks ago are Gaussian splat, and that seems to work very well, either from one single image or from a few images. Let's say 4 images or 3 images, front, back, side, for a character. But the same could be for a isometric building, house or a chest or whatever. There we go. We get the glasses. The challenge for that image is that the AI has no clue what the back is looking like. But if we use composition control, and if we use composition control with a reference image that will have different poses, then each pose will be consistent with my prompt. And these independent images will feed a Gaussian splat algorithm, nerf-like algorithm, and so on. And I think that's how 2D to 3D will progress. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, that's loud. Hi, I'm Sonia. I got a question about how you plan or how you're even thinking about extending what you're building. So here, you've been talking a lot about games and studios, and it's a massive market, as you said. I'm curious if you guys want to stick within that for the foreseeable future, or whether you're thinking of extending these to maybe more of an enterprise level for illustrations for Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. etc.?
Nice question, which we are debating with investors as well. Gaming is a huge market in itself. It's like even way too big for just one company, of course. Like by the way, there are like 40, 50, Gen AI companies targeting gaming. If you line up 2D and 3D and sound and VFX and videos and so on, that's a massive market. I mean, it's going to be it's an opportunity to build a business that's bigger than Unity. And actually, like the reason why we call Scenario a Gen AI engine is I believe games will be built on Scenario the same way they are built on Unity, either to build the game before it's being shipped or to support the game at runtime. So I definitely see gaming as a big enough business to build a unicorn. Decacorn would say my investors. It's really big. There will be other use cases, and I welcome them. And by the way, gaming has often been an industry, defining new technologies that are being adopted by others, education, movies, marketing, and so on. But I'd rather go vertical and do a one-stop shop solution than a horizontal business, which Firefly, Midjourney, and Dall-E are today. It is very early in the market. It is very chaotic. Things will structure themselves, and we'll go from tech-focused companies to workflow-focused companies. Right now, it's mostly tech-focused startups. I do 2D, I do audio, I do 3D. Tomorrow, it's going to be I do a game. So that's how we think.
Let's give Emmanuel a round of applause. Incredible. If we have more questions for Emmanuel, we are setting up for a roundtable. We'll take the last 12 minutes. We'll do a roundtable with Mary and Emmanuel. It's going to take us a minute just to set it up here, because we'll have two speakers. But if you do have a question for Emmanuel, save it for when Mary's up here as well, or for networking as well. And we can do that. Let's see.
Should we do one by one?
And yeah, just actually, Mary, we'll grab you that mic there. You guys will get your own mics. And so think of some good questions for the panel too, if you like. And after that, we'll kick off networking and have pizza as well.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks. I'm in love with my product,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why. But all of my devs, they are like heavily into Copilot. It's crazy. Yeah, they dug some really like productivity increase, like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're on the individual, I think you can do like the free trial as well without even signing a business license.
Yeah. I think we do have a business license. But we have a lot of contractors as well.
Thanks for all your patience, everyone. We have a team of two, basically. Myself and Cyril. Our audio guy is also the video guy. We have one AV guy, and that's Cyril. Takes care of all this. He has other duties as well, believe it or not.
I need to change my profile picture. I look scary. Scary. Yeah, like.
Okay, let's kick off this roundtable discussion.
Yeah, I just discovered the topic.
We have both our speakers here, Mary and Emmanuel. I was thinking of opening it up with just this general question. What skills do you think the next generation of designers, or current designers, in fact, should be focusing on right now, given all the new tools available? What tools should they be focusing on, or is there a mindset they should take when approaching this new environment? Mary, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think given all the new technologies that's been coming out and given how it seems like it's easier than ever to produce really good visual design, especially, I get a feeling that as AI technology continues to develop further and further, that what's going to be more important is for designers that are emerging to really focus on creating like personalized experiences that really cater to stakeholders. And what I mean is like also building stronger relationships with the stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, your stakeholders are going to remember you as a person and the story that you come up with and the skills that you offer. Sure, like AI is going to come along and maybe potentially create a really beautiful UI, or maybe even like connect it together into a really great experience that makes sense. But you're still going to have somebody who comes in and checks the experience and reviews it to make sure that all the pieces make sense, that you're tackling the right users, that you're thinking about the positioning in the right way, and you're thinking about the design in the right way. And then most importantly, you have to report this back to your stakeholders as well. The execs that are going to be interested in how you think about the market and how you're thinking about the design and experience. So ultimately, I would say as AI continues to develop, I think it may be more important to focus on soft skills, developing closer relationships, talking more with your stakeholders, becoming more understanding of like how people are like building relationships, and mostly focusing on that aspect, I think would be more important in my opinion.
Yep, agreed. And I would add, be curious, so curiosity. Extreme curiosity at the moment. It's been a few months that every month I'm like, wow, that was such a month. Hopefully next one will be a bit more calm. And no, it's the amount of news, the amount of updates it increases every month. So it can be exhausting, but it is as it is today, and we have to accept and embrace it. So designers, get ready to unlearn, relearn, unlearn again, and so on at a massive pace. And at some point, I started being worried that I would never catch up. It's impossible to catch up with everything, but at least if you dedicate enough time to be curious and learn and unlearn all the time, I think that's how you stay to the top. Just quick anecdote before the next question. We, as a company, did not start with Gen AI. Like we were doing another product, also on gaming, more on 3D. That was okay, not crazy explosive. And when AI came, we decided we would literally scrap 1.5 years of hard work and start from scratch. And I think like designers should be ready to do so in AI sometimes.
Awesome. Questions for the speakers from the audience?
Hi, question for Emmanuel. What do you see as the most exciting implementation of like 3D game assets? And I'm specifically wondering like if you have experimented or are planning to experiment in virtual reality at all?
Yes, the company goes from a 3D background. My previous company was doing massive 3D reconstruction using drone imagery, tens of thousands of images, massive 3D models. And so I started Scenario because I believe tech will get so easy that it will help build the metaverse. Like it's whatever we want to call it, the next iteration of the internet that is going to be fully immersive. However, AI generated 3D right now is probably 1 year behind AI generated 2D or AI generated videos. It is at the, let's say, Midjourney V3 stage. And I vividly remember V3 because that was the first version of Midjourney I started using. Great for having a draft of a 3D model to iterate on, but definitely far from production, like very, very far from production ready. Great for prototyping. it will quickly improve. And things will improve on the mesh side and on the texture side. And these are two different topics: the geometry and the topology, and then the texture, which is the 2D image that is being wrapped around the model. Textures, by the way, the AI generated textures, it's sold. It's here. It might not be perfect, but it's like 90% there. So maybe we will see first 3D AI generated 3D focusing on textures before it goes to meshes. And I will finish with one quote from Jensen Huang at NVIDIA at GDC, Game Developer Conference last year, where he said, every single pixel will be AI generated, not rendered, AI, but generated. That's the quote. And what that means is in the future, but that might be more like 5 to 10 years ahead, we might be able to skip make the step where people have to make a 3D models. That won't be even necessary anymore. The rendering will happen live as we play, as we watch a movie, as we watch an ad, and so on. No 3D model will have been made and rendered within Unity or within Unreal. Everything that we see will be directly generated. That requires a deep change in the way people handle the content, so that might be immediate, but that's very exciting.
So NVIDIA is going to continue to grow, most likely. I know you're not giving stock advice, perhaps, but if that happens, I think we can expect...
The scenario stock has much more potential.
If we're talking about potential, that makes sense. Next question.
Hi, thanks so much, Mary and Emmanuel. I had a question for each of you, the same question. What are maybe 1 to 2 design principles that you and your team use when building these new Gen AI tools?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm just thinking because we have a series of different design principles. Yeah. It's interesting because depending on the design team that focuses on like different products, for instance. So for example, like Copilot chat versus the actual Copilot design itself in the .com. Each team itself has actually a different design principle based on what it's going for. And for my team in particular, for growth, one of the things that I think we're optimizing for is just a balance of high quality design with speed. Because often I find personally that in some like previous experiences with past companies, there can often be kind of like a struggle between how fast you want to move and the types of experiences that you release. And typically, if you move really fast, then sometimes you can also compromise on your own quality of the experience. That's not always the case, but it can sometimes happen. And so one of the things we really want to make sure that we achieve is high quality designs, because at the end of the day, GitHub was built for developers, by developers, and that was always a tenet to how it became really successful. We always focused on the visual design, the quality of the experience that we deliver, and that's always been 100% our priority. And I think even working on growth, prioritizing adoption and making sure that the product is getting more awareness from users and engagement, I think it's important for our team to be aware that we want to move fast, and we want people to adopt, but not at the expense of the user experience. So that's the design principle that we highly value.
Great question. And what I would say is this is one of the most complex products that I've been building so far, in a sense that it is at the intersection of art, specifically game art, UI, web UI, namely, like a nice UI to navigate and so on, and cloud engineering. Cloud engineering for speed and cost, scale, data security, data privacy, and so on. And so what I would say is we might have the web app for us might be the showcase, but my vision is for the web app to maybe do a tiny percentage of the generation of scenario tomorrow. So our design principle is how we use that web app, that web UI, to make people realize they can build their own stuff on top of the same feature with their own interface using our API. And it's a complex topic. One solution is always, it's like you, Marie, or GitHub, it's like focus on getting things right on one topic before you move to the next one. And for GenAI, it's super hard because we're constantly bombarded by the new Gaussian splat stuff, 3D and audio, and let's make Grimes, music with their custom voice and so on and so forth. And we want to do it, we want it all. But we won't move to the next step until the first one is completely solved. And style consistency for images has not been fully solved yet.
Any more questions? Okay, perfect. Emmanuel, sort of a question for you, but related to Copilot and Codex. Real quick from me. You mentioned games driving everything, and many things in terms of technology. Imagine we never had games, but we had everything else. Where would NVIDIA be today in supporting efforts for expanding LLMs of all sorts? Is that a weird question?
If we never had games?
If we never had games to drive the technologies to support, like with the support of companies like NVIDIA, and how much processing power would we have available today had games never been invented? Would we have the same?
Well, hell no. But one answer to your question is without 20 years of NVIDIA investigating gaming, I'm not sure every other use case than gaming will be as ready as it is today. Does this make sense? It's so. NVIDIA is not the only one, but having NVIDIA heavily doing GPUs for 20 years was one, but not the only one. The one factor that led to the Cambrian explosion. Other ones being ChatGPT, the UI itself, because the tech was there for 5 years, but everybody started talking about it when such an easy interface came out, right? So there's, I don't know, maybe tech historians will do use cases at Harvard and Stanford in a few years, and so far we're just riding the wave.
Okay, next question.
Okay. Hi. I think the question might be more for Mary, but feel free to both answer. I think I've been noticing a lot of development and discussion around these very specific assets that are getting created with generative AI. But as a product designer, I think I'm more curious about the specific steps inside the process that are happening, like when you go from sketches to lo-fi fidelity frames, and then going from that to mid-fidelity to high fidelity to prototyping, inside that process, how do you see AI's role emerging throughout all of this, everything that's happening outside of that specific workflow? Because I feel like that's where I wish there was there were more tools to maybe speed up the process from sketch to high fidelity. So if you have any inklings of ideas for where that's going to go, that's kind of the question.
Well, my personal guess based on all the content around AI is just that eventually we're soon going to get to a stage. It's just also a matter of time at which, I think computers are going to be able to generate visual designs. They're going to be able to generate sketches and be able to maybe in 5 minutes generate a UX design, and then be able to take that directly into a high fidelity design, also another matter of 5 minutes or so. And it's just a matter of taking in context, because essentially with ChatGPT or even Copilot, you can just give it a series of prompts can you create this particular UI for me, and then just continuously tell it what you're trying to create. And you can say I'm trying to solve this particular problem where I'm trying to create this thing for this user. And then you can get into more specifics. And I can imagine at some point it can just draw and create a lot of these concrete visuals. And at that point, it's more about you as a designer being able to articulate the vision of why you wanted this design to be created, and the story about why it's important to the company and how it's going to meet business goals. And so I think it comes down to being able to think more strategically and being able to appeal more to executives about some of your decision-making skills and why you've chosen certain things. Because even right now, I find that with junior designers, for example, it's very easy to be able to find a junior designer on the market and be able to have them be super strong in like visual chops. I would even argue a visual designer, like a junior visual designer, could possibly even have stronger visual chops than me. And I've been working on visual design for many years because it's just they might spend more time on it than I do while I'm focusing more on the holistic product experience. So in many ways, I find that visual design and sketching and UX design, those are the things and the skills that are more easily replicated, and those are the skills that are more probably going to be rendered eventually redundant over time. But it's really the thinking, how you're thinking about problems strategically, how you're trying to solve for the business needs, how you're going to help the companies meet a specific goal, like create more users, get more awareness, meet a certain revenue goal, any form of those things. If you are able to offer value directly to your customer in those forms and your stakeholders, then they're going to be able to see that you're thinking very high level and you're thinking very strategically about these pieces. And I don't think AI is going to be able to replace that, how you're actually thinking about the strategy. So I would focus more on looking at product strategy, reading about strategically how businesses make money, for instance, or businesses are able to generate engagement, and focus a little bit more on those areas, and also how to cultivate a little bit more like on the soft skills part about building relationships with stakeholders. And ultimately, we like working with people. AI is great, but ultimately we're people wanting to build relationships with one another and work closely together. And that's never going to go away, so I would focus on those areas.
Yeah, I'm curious as to like how you think about longer timelines. Like say in 10 years, every pixel is going to be the direct output of a neural net, or maybe in 3 years, GPT-6 or whatever is going to be so good that no human ever writes code themselves and just describes an end product. How do you decide whether it's worth investing 2 years into the development of a product if these current extremely fast accelerating AI timelines are maybe render that product irrelevant in the near future?
The reason I'm confident, not certain, but confident in what we do is we might invest 2 years, as you just said, in a certain direction, but I will bet that the company will be able to pivot into a new direction immediately, even if it's really, like it means like heavily modify or even abandon the previous project, as long as we have interactions with customers. Because customers will guide us, and if we keep that customer feedback constant, and if it's the main driving force for us to decide which direction we're taking, we'll take the direction early enough to not die when things change. That's what happened a year ago when we pivoted. And that's why today, you talk about soft skills. I'd rather have the soft skill to learn from customers and users than the hard skill to train an LLM, so to say. I mean, there will be companies doing LLMs and they're great and so on, but for the thousands of startups out there, or designers and so on, that's the soft skill to really nurture. So future is bright, but like very uncertain. It's going to be very chaotic. Chaos is a ladder.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate both of you, Mary and Emmanuel. Let's give them one more round of applause. Excellent. So great. If you want to show your support, say you were here on our Twitter and LinkedIn, etc. Our meetup page, if you like this event and want to attend others, check it out. Visit my colleague Alexa on the other side during networking. She'll explain more about the social media challenge to get a free ticket to the conference. Seems like a good deal, right? Free ticket to the conference. Just take a picture of the event tonight and post it. She'll explain the details on the other side. Next events right here. Designers in 4 weeks, so sign up right now. All these events and speakers are posted. So if you're interested in the content, go ahead and register. And we have time for maybe 1 or 2 open mic pitches here if you'd like. The LinkedIn audience is right here too. If you want to introduce yourself, maximum 60-second pitch, just say hello to the audience. Just to kick off networking, this is by request from you guys. We do this every time. If you don't want to do it, don't worry about it. Just wanted to offer. And we do this now every time. So you can introduce yourself, and it's a nice way to get things going and keep things structured for networking. So if anyone would like to come up and just introduce yourself, you're welcome to. We have time for probably like 2 this time. So all I ask is keep the pitches short. All these topics are okay. And stand where I am right here. And let's queue up. And out of courtesy, let's just keep the pitches nice and quick.
You got it. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, LinkedIn. My name's Ken Groby. I'm a brand consultant and a copywriter. I work on a freelance basis as a consultant. I work primarily with startups, helping them, primarily tech, primarily SaaS, helping them craft their branding, their messaging frameworks, their web copy. I leverage AI on a case-by-case basis, but I also apply my own skills developed over many, many years to bring the whole thing into something that's a little more warmer, a little more human, and generally more compelling than what AI can provide initially. So I use the full skill set. Come by and see me if you're interested in talking. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Ken. Steph, come on up.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Steph Hutka. I'm a design researcher working at the intersection of spatial computing and AI. I recently formed my own design practice called Sendful, like full send, but backwards for anyone who does any extreme sports. And just wanted to say, please come chat with me if you're interested in jamming about new interaction, human-computer interaction challenges, if you're looking for a partner for fractional design leadership, if you want to chat about trainings around topics anywhere from Design Research 101 to cognitive load evaluation. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist turned research scientist turned UXR. It's a long story, but maybe something that's really tangible for this audience. I just started a new Substack. If you come chat with me, you can scan a QR code. I look at the latest AI news through a human-computer interaction lens and also have a community area for design research job openings. So come chat. Would love to meet you.
Steph, thanks so much. I think we can do one more. It's got to be the quickest announcement of all time. And just stand right here so LinkedIn can hear you as well.
Yeah, so quick announcement. I'm a full cycle technical recruiter. So I work with companies to fill their open data science and software engineering positions. So if any senior software engineers, data scientists, or machine learning engineers are looking to work with a startup, come talk to me. I also offer a reverse recruiting service. So within 100 days, I have created a job search strategy that uses like a bunch of AI-powered tools. Come chat with me if you're looking for a job.
Really appreciate it. And we'll do this every time. So if you felt like you kind of sort of wanted to make an announcement, but you didn't really want to, do it next time. And so we'll do it every single time. And if you do make an announcement, you can post in the live stream chat for this event for people to follow up if you want to do that. So that is it. Thanks so much for attending. Appreciate all of you. Thanks, LinkedIn. And let's do some networking, get to know each other, and enjoy some pizza. Thanks very much.
Just a quick question. I saw the AI user quiz, that board, and it said that AI members of AI dev group, user group get a discount.
Yeah.
So how do you get a discount?
There's a discount code, AIUG Love.
Okay, AIUG.
And it's in the slides, which are in the